Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Today we are looking at some new malicious compliance stories. I hope you enjoy them. The first story is called The Problem with All PCs. This was around a decade ago. I had a new minted master's degree and a brand new position in a third-party market research and program evaluation company. We were doing a lot of work for local government agencies. Even though I was an analyst, I was given one of the oldest workstations in the office, a Pentium 3 with 256 MB of memory. This was at the end of the 2000s, mind you. Most systems were being built with gigs of memory at that point. It was slow as heck, taking minutes to open Office documents. I think some of the RAM was bad because it had a tendency to just reset itself when it ran out of resources. My work always involved having multiple documents and tabs open, and sometimes resource-intensive statics programs. It crashed a lot, and getting anything done was a pain. But I wasn't the only one. Several of the assistant analysts also had decrepit relics of the late 90s in their nukes. They didn't have actual offices, just nukes. At least they weren't cubicles. We complained about the state of the computers. But since we were a branch office of the company, we were pretty much ignored. We could still do the work, right? The head office didn't like spending money. This place considered itself a small business, and small businesses always skimp on IT. We could get most of our work done. It was just laggy and slow, and occasionally resulted in rework because of crashed systems. They were going to use those relics until they died. Well, at one point, I and one of the assistants got put on a major project for us, working with one of the managers from the main office several provinces away. It was a continuation study, something that was run once every couple of years or so. And in the weeks leading up to rolling out the current version of the survey, we had to crawl through the datasets of years gone by, using Excel. There were over 6,000 records, and the survey had a lot of iterative fields, so it was a massive file. I know that's a small dataset for some, but for our company, which usually had datasets under 500 or had qualitative data, that was huge. We had been complaining about the computers for months at this point, only to have everything fall on deaf ears. Our manager would keep asking for specific pulls and queries from the dataset, and we would do our best to fill them. But it was a pain, because it would take 5 to 10 minutes usually to just get to one field in the data. He was starting to complain about our laziness and how long it took to get info. The assistant and I both wanted to work and wanted to be more productive, but our wings were well and truly clipped by these garbage computers. So we decided on some malicious compliance. At one point, the manager asked us for some simple pieces of data, so we divided up the task and then set our computers to sorting the datasets. This particular sort would take our computers about 30 minutes. We set up the sort and filter criteria and then let it run. Then we went over to a local coffee shop, got some confectionery excuses for coffee and baked goods, and took an unscheduled break. We literally could not do any other task for any other project while that occurred. Computers literally unusable, and all our current work was on the computer. So we chilled, finished our coffees, and kvetched about the workstations. Both of us were geeks who had decent homebrew gaming systems at home. We knew these things were about 7 years out of date and not up to what we were doing with them. And also how a real system should respond to an Excel sort, not that long. We then went back, saw that our files were still sorting, and proceeded to chill in my office. Then I got a call. It was a manager. He was wondering why we hadn't gotten him that simple data request yet, and why we weren't responding to emails. I don't remember the exact conversation. This was more than a decade ago. But it went something like this. "I've been emailing you. Why haven't you responded?" "Oh, sorry, we've been running that sort you requested." I took half and the assistant took the other half, and we are both trying to get it. "We can't access your emails until the sort is done, because our computers won't respond." "But that should have been done ages ago. Why is it still running?" "Well, the computers just don't have the resources to sort that many data fields. I've got 256 MB of RAM, and I think it's a Pentium 3. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. The manager also knew a thing or two about computers. "What?" "Yeah," my assistant piped in. We were on speakerphone. "These things are older than God. It usually takes 5 to 10 minutes to get your data. That's why we are so slow getting back to you. We thought we'd make things faster and split the search up between two of us, but it's been 20 minutes and the progress bar is still like only 70%. I piped up. Hopefully the RAM fault doesn't kick in and reset my computer. I hate it when I have to redo a query. I've closed all other programs except Excel until it finishes, but it's a little iffy. Our manager was silent again. Then he told us to send him the information when we could, and he'd get back to us. On Friday that week, we came into the office to find boxes of computer stuff being set up in our offices. One of the local managers said, "Hey, you guys are getting new computers." The head office had them purchased and sent down. It was only me and the assistant. I guess the head office manager had pulled some strings and demanded that we have IT equipment that was capable of doing the work we'd been assigned. Eventually, the others in the office got upgrades too. The company realized they were not saving themselves any money when people they paid $200 a day were spending half the day waiting for computers to respond or redoing work lost from crashed systems. The assistant and I went on to really nail the project with fast response times and good work. The difference in productivity with the new systems was immense. And now I had a computer that could even have other programs open at the same time, including my favorite radio station, Score. The next story is called "Didn't Get My Notice?" This story takes place almost a year ago, right as I was getting out of retail and into my career field. My job at the time was to pick, pack and ship online orders from the store. I usually started my day between 6 and 7 am and left by 3 or 4 pm. As we get closer to my last days, management started adding new tasks to my daily workload. Keep in mind, this is as the holiday orders are ramping up and we are getting busy. The first thing they added? Ship from store now also has to pick and pack in-store pickup and carry out orders. The next thing was the non-closing reshop in the mornings that the night team didn't, couldn't or wouldn't finish. Finally, it was adding a set of morning stock batches that I had to pull, push and backstock by 10 am. I gave my employer a whopping 3 weeks notice to find and have me train a replacement. In that time, I trained a few people, but none of them could do the work as well or as quickly as I could. Understandable, as I had worked there for almost 4 years at that point. All of those people I trained were moved to new positions within the week and I never got more than 1 day with them. The company requires at least 4 hours of training for a new task, not including the computer-based portions. I think altogether I got maybe 2 hours with each person. Anyway, 2 days until I'm officially out. I come in at 6:30 am and grab the reshop for the entire non-closing portion of the store. I finished that around 7:30 am. Then I started getting the in-store pickup and carry out orders that have to be done by 8 am. I got those done by 8:15 am. Morning pulls done by 10:15 am. Then I finally got to start on my actual job. I check the system to see how many ship from store orders I have. Almost 300 items and counting. It doesn't actually stop adding new ones until 1 pm. At 10:20 am, the store director walks in and immediately asks me why it isn't done yet. So I give him the same rundown. He was not happy. I do not remember his entire lecture. But I do remember that he covered various topics, such as why my then girlfriend, now fiancée, may leave me if I don't get my act together. How these orders really aren't that difficult. And he even explained that he kept pulling people away from this position because he knows that I can do the work and he looks forward to my continued service in this role. Hold up, did he forget that I put in my notice? I tried to explain to him that I had started picking for SFS within the last 5 to 10 minutes. But he didn't hear a word of it and simply said in his most sarcastic, passive-aggressive voice, "If you can't handle it today, I understand. Take a few days off and come back refreshed." So I took my last few days off. When they called me the next week while I was training for my new job, I did not answer. The HR manager at the store finally called me by calling from his cell phone as I was on lunch. He said they never got my 2 weeks notice and that I was in serious trouble if I didn't show up for my scheduled shifts. I told him, "Oh, no problem, let me just add you to the email chain." And I forwarded him the email chain between me and the store director where I gave him 3 weeks notice and he acknowledged it. Good days in my book. So glad I'm not in retail anymore. I hope you enjoyed today's video so far. If you want more content, press the subscribe button and join the penguins. And if you like the video, don't forget to press the like button. It really helps the channel. And now, onto the last story. The last story is called Call Me When You Get to It. I do contract database work for a handful of companies. Nobody pays me to be on call, so the general rule of thumb is if you need something done, give me a few days heads up. Unless someone specifies that something is time sensitive and calls me to ask if I can bump it up, I tackle things in the order they were received. I've been somewhat overwhelmed with the volume of silly little tasks being thrown my way the past few weeks. But I get by on little sleep in the first place, so it's not unusual for me to be cranking out spreadsheets well after 10 PM. For the most part, everyone is understanding and cooperative. But there's one person, we'll call her Lucy, who is simply not okay with me not responding and taking care of her request immediately. She'll send an email, a text after 5 minutes, and then call on repeat until I pick up if there's anything she'd like me to do. I started off with the impression that this was simply someone who's been ignored in the workplace before. And I didn't want to be the person who confirms her concerns. So I spent some time kind of bending over backward with whatever nonsense Lucy throws my way. About a week ago, Lucy sent me a massive list of unrelated tasks she'd like me to do. This has been a move lately, as she tries to cut in line, come up with anything she might want to be done and throw it out there at the beginning of the week. I gave Lucy a call to ask about prioritization, as she makes everything out to be urgent. For context, anything being urgent means that Lucy isn't doing her job correctly. When I asked what she'd like me to prioritize, Lucy laughed and said my email. I explained that I was already neck deep for the next few days and anything that isn't time sensitive will be taken care of in the order it was received. Lucy didn't like this. She started asking me if I would do it if XYZ coworker had been the one who asked. I told her no, that really has nothing to do with this. And that the reason I'm calling is to make sure anything she actually needs done in a timely manner will get done. She became indignant and threatened to tell the chairman of the organization about how I was ignoring her. This was kind of funny, because that's who I was sitting with at the time. Needless to say, I wasn't too concerned about her threat. But this is when I realized her "nobody listens to me" shtick is just a manipulation tactic. Anywho, Lucy explains how little she cares, very little. And that if I can't be bothered to help her now, she wants me to call her whenever I get to each task from her list. I thought she was joking, kind of chuckled, and asked if she really wants phone calls after 10 PM. She must have thought I was exaggerating or trying to claim I'm an incredible worker. She responded with, "If you think you work harder than me, you are mistaken." Again, I chuckled a bit and explained that I'm not necessarily working hard in the middle of the night, that just happens to be when some things get done. We went back and forth a bit, but she held her ground and demanded a phone call when I get to each task. Well, last night, around 1 AM, I got to one of her requests. Lucy wanted me to add someone's middle name to the email platform they use. This couldn't possibly be less trivial. I certainly didn't have any follow-up questions about the task. I went back and forth about calling her, but I couldn't stop thinking about her attitude, belittling me, and most importantly, insisting she gets a phone call no matter what time or how stupid. She answered the phone and said, "Never call me at this time again," and hung up. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.